Now, waste like that, matched to a degree by the Russians, will plunge the war, in all likelihood, plunge the world into economic depression, and will, in all probability, bankrupt the two superpowers. I ran into an economist in Chicago the other day who was pursuing this theme, and he said, you know, they can't continue with this defense madness without bankrupting this country. And so since they don't want to bankrupt the country, they're going to cut back. That was his optimistic conclusion. And I got real reservations about a conclusion like that. I see no likelihood at all that they intend to cut back. I see no signs. And the 50,000 people who die daily in the world from hunger and hunger-related causes will double or triple. And that's the price the poor of the world, including the poor of our own country, will pay for our madness. One last point. The U.S. has never renounced first strike or first use of nuclear weapons. Russia has offered to. China has said, we will never use these weapons first. Add to that the cheerful fact that our policy is first strike, it is counterforce. As the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist tells us, we're about 4 minutes to 12. We're closer to 12 in nuclear war than any other time since Cuba of 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis. As a recent 2 months ago Harris poll revealed, 68% of those interviewed thought nuclear war would happen within 5 years. That's 2 of 3 Americans, and it's safe to conclude that the vast majority of those interviewed are doing absolutely nothing about it. So are we among their number, and if so, what does that say about us? Well, out of my checkered career, I've come to a few conclusions about politicians. And I conclude that they are pretty much the most dangerous people around, especially superpower politicians. I remember being on a Martin Luther King program with Ronald Dellums, the black congressman from California. And in the course of operating with him on a panel of some sort, we're trying to sift out the meaning of Martin Luther King's life. I asked him, I said, what's the quality of conscience in this year's Congress? And he went into about a 5-minute explanation of this. And he says, the majority of my consorts in the Congress perform the role of weather vane. They shift with the wind. He says they have, it's very, very seldom that you discover any moral sense operating with them at all. They worry about constituency. They worry about the next election. They worry about keeping unemployment down in their congressional districts, even if it means war work of the most atrocious kind. And he says they are bought and sold really rather cheaply. Now, such a person is dangerous. And above all, Ronald Reagan is dangerous. He's a poor, limited guy. You know, generally, he's an actor, and that's his only training in anything. You know. And as one very, very acute columnist, a syndicated columnist, remarked here about 2 months ago, historically, he's profoundly ignorant. You know. What's more, he's lazy, and he's highly manipulative. Highly manipulative. And so Stockman would admit in that damaging magazine article that supply-side economics are no more than the old trickle-down theory. And that it does no more than clarify Reagan's relationship to the rich of this country. He's a mouthpiece for the rich. And he has given them more, take the oil barons, for example, more than their, their maximum demands required or were articulated to him, the administration. He's a dangerous man. And so in light of that, a guy 70 years ago, a Catholic, a French Catholic who died in the trenches of World War I, wrote this about politicians. Give you a little bit of the background. So the politicians get even with us, or think they get even, by saying at least they are practical and that we are not. In this, they deceive themselves and they deceive others. We will not grant them that much, says Péguy. It is the mystics who are practical, the politicians who are not. It is we who are practical, who do something, and it is they who are not, who do nothing. Tolstoy has this image, of the politician. He says it's like a squirrel in a treadmill in a cage, and the squirrel is constantly running and never moves. And you go into the congressional offices down in Washington, and you, as I'm sure some of you have done, and you see the paper pushing, and you see the considerable and expensive staffs, and nothing moves, nothing moves, nothing moves. No enhancement of life, no risk for truth, no focus upon a bettering quality of life in the United States or in this or that congressional district. Nothing moves, nothing moves. They do nothing, Péguy says. It is we who gather up and they who pillage. It is we who build, it is we who lay foundations, and it is they who demolish. It is we who nourish others, and they who live as parasites. It is we who create works and community, peoples and races, and they who ruin all. Yeah, the politicians are dangerous people. And it's only a concerted voice from the people of this country that's going to reverse the trend of their influence and their power. I'll leave that to your imagination as to what we need to do. Thank you very much.